Okay, it's 5:30 p.m. I'd like to begin this caucus session of our council. We have 4 items for action this evening under new business, being 4 ordinances and 2 resolutions. Anybody have their print here? Is there any recommended changes or additions to the agenda as presented this evening? Okay, thank you. I'd like to call this February 18th, 2015 council meeting to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Agish?
Yes.
Mr. Kosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Tisch?
Okay, thank you. All of you have received one set of minutes from the February 4th regular council meeting. Are there any revisions to those minutes? If not, they stand approved and on record.
Special meeting 2 also.
Okay, under reading of communications, Mr. Rogers?
I have none.
Mr. Morvay?
Just with regard to the JID that we'll be talking about a little bit later this evening, for the most part, surveying residents of the city and the township seems like they favor this idea, and that it's a benefit to both the city and the township.
That's all I have.
There?
I have nothing. I would only echo what John is saying. I think we've hammered out a very, very good agreement, and everybody should be happy with it. It's going to benefit a lot of people.
I concur, Mayor. Okay. Mr. Marino?
Yeah, I have a couple of them. First off, I had received good news last week in having a desktop audit, what's called the desktop audit with the Appalachian Regional Commission. They were auditing the project, which if you recall, we had received a grant for $150,000 to do a limited amount of work on the 24-inch water line. We're unsuccessful in being able to complete that project because we found out the damage was much larger than what we initially anticipated. Our grant was for $150,000. They were gracious enough to allow us to use that money to do more exploring and to determine the actual lengths of the project and re-engineer it basically. We left a balance of $47,930 which we returned back to the Appalachian District. During our audit, I explained to them where we were at, that the problem was much larger and we were getting funding from the Ohio Public Works Commission to complete the project. They asked if we could still use the $47,930, and it was a pretty easy answer to give them back. I asked them to repeat the question first, and graciously accepted that money. So we can use that money first before we go into the loan with OPWC. So it was actually quite a pleasant surprise to receive that.
Great.
On the same note, I received written communication or confirmation from the Ohio Public Works Commission that our loan documents have been signed by the director and they're in the mail. You like to hear that from the government. That's to assure us. I asked her that we get this in print before we take action this evening. Everything's in place. The director was out of town. He just signed them yesterday and they were to be shipped off today. So we will be receiving those and we can take action this evening on that particular project. We also received a shop drawing of the new bridge over 224 with Canfield. That's how it will appear on the bridge as you approach both from the north and from the south. It will have Canfield embossed right into the parapet with black lettering. So that will be a permanent facility on that structure. And I mentioned that, and Mr. Miklos had just come in here. I received correspondence from him and spoke with him earlier today. He has a property off of East Main, which is about 40 years old, and he's been tied into the water system for that length of period. His property sits about 1,200 feet off the road, and there's actually two dwellings or three dwellings on that?
Two dwellings.
Two dwellings on there. Several years ago, the main house, we had tied in off of Village Boulevard, which his property also abuts, and it's closer to Village than it actually is to East Main. And at the same time, they also removed the septic system from the other property and tied that in on Village. What he's asking is that we can tie that second house, the water line, in on Village and waive the tap fee of the $1,500 for that. I believe we waived the fees in the past for the other house. I don't have a problem with doing that since he's an existing customer. It's not a new customer, and I need council's authorization to be able to do that. Want to act on that this evening? Or?
Right now.
Well, you can make a motion now if you wanted to.
I'll make a motion that we waive the $1,500 fee for this tie-in since there's somewhat of a precedent set for this particular parcel of land.
I'll second that.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Well, hold on a minute. Now you got to ask for public comments on that.
Okay.
Right?
Any public comments?
Do you need any further explanation, or?
I think they're...
Okay, all right.
Okay. Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Kozar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
And Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
That's all I have under communications.
Okay, windows open. Oh, jeez, that's why. Freezing up here. Okay, under reports of committee, city manager, and department heads, Mr. Rogers.
I have nothing.
Mr. Morvay.
Just to report on the fire district, we continue to work on the property for the new fire station. The ambulance that I had talked about last council meeting, we did receive that from Beaver Township, and should be in service by April 1st. It will be a backup ambulance for our fire district. The bridge, of course, is delayed another week or so due to weather. I guess what I was going to say is the fire district has been making plans with Boardman and other fire departments to help us out when this bridge is closed. We just placed an order for 2 trucks. One to replace the truck that was in the accident, and then the new truck for the new station. We're currently working on the liability insurance policy at the fire district, and we wrapped up the budget for 2015, approximately $1.5 million, and that's about it.
Mayor?
I have nothing.
Okay. Joe?
We have 6 items of legislation to be dealt with this evening. The first being an ordinance authorizing contract modification number 1 for MS Consultants. This deals with the primary, the basic engineering services that they provide through the year. If you recall, when we did this agreement a few years ago, there was an estimated amount of time that was established between myself and Tom Mosier as to how many meetings we anticipated we'd have through the year and that type of how many tasks that we would typically handle. In proceeding through the year, we found out that, which is the only part of this that kind of disturbed me, it wasn't until a week ago that we had found out that we overran the meetings. We had initially thought that there were 19 meetings additional. Having gone through all of the invoicing from our office as well as from MS, we reduced that number down to 17. So I think you have the correct legislation where the modification is basically $11,812, not the $12,000 that was initially stated, so savings of about $974 for 2 meetings. But through our discussions, and we had thought we had rectified this the last time, what they assured me that they will do is run a ending balance within each invoice. So this year we'll now see that, if we're starting out at 38.4 or 34.8, that next month it might be 24.6, then 22. At some point we'll have a better handle as to where we're at, and if they may not be needed at a staff meeting or something, we could start watching the clock a little better. So I was kind of disappointed in the fact that I didn't know that ahead of time, but I don't doubt at all that the time was spent and spent very well. I encourage you to approve the modifications that are being requested for that. In addition to that, item 2 on the agenda is the contract for 2015. And basically set up in the same manner with the exception I just explained, that we will have a better tracking of the balance of the dollars and be able to know where we're at before we're handed a bill 2 months into it, 2 months later. Item C is a authorization to enter into a contract with Michael Benz & Associates for the construction management and resident inspection for the 24-inch water line. And again, this project would be 100% funded through the loan that we'll be receiving from OPWC. Benz & Associates were the design engineers on the project. I believe they handled it very well and have handled other projects for us in the past to my expectations. So I would certainly encourage approval of that. Also, the authorization directing the city manager to enter into a contract for the rehabilitation and replacement of the 24-inch transmission main. And again, this is where we had open bids. We have an apparent low bidder, which is Corella Contracting out of the Brookfield area. Came in well under the engineering estimate. They've got quite a bit of experience in this type of work. Again, I have no doubt of their being able to perform this, and they know that we're in a serious situation and we want to get this done as quickly as possible. So I, again, encourage you to approve this. We can get a pre-construction meeting set up and hopefully get this completed before the spring. We have a resolution seeking a public hearing, or setting a public hearing for the proposed Joint Economic Development District. And we've had quite a bit of discussion on this in the most recent weeks. And lastly, I'm asking for a resolution authorizing the city manager to submit a grant request for the Safe Routes to School program. If you recall, we submitted this last year. It ties the middle school and the Hilltop School areas where there are no sidewalks. It would pay 100% of the cost of putting those sidewalks in those areas that would link them to the schools. We fell short last year of getting funded. They encouraged us to resubmit, and that's all we're doing, and hopefully we'll get funded this year. And I think it would serve us all well to have the sidewalks put in those areas. A couple other things I have. I've gotten all of the budget requests from our departments. I've provided you with a list of those, and I'd like to set a budget hearing for the right after the first meeting in March. I hope to have all of the members of council and the mayor present. And that would be March 4th, immediately following the council meeting. As you can see on the sheet, our requests exceed our revenues that are anticipated, and what there'll be a lot of discussion on, in my opinion, would be on the general fund. I mean, we're somewhat comfortable in some of the other funds, not as comfortable as I'd like to be, but the general fund, we certainly fall way short of what our needs are and our budget requests. So certainly keep that in mind when you look over these items, and hopefully we'll have some good discussion on that and ways of obtaining some future revenue. It doesn't look like the state's going to be helping us. Over the last couple of years, we've lost in excess of $600,000 that we could pretty much depend on, and that's gone. And we need to find a way to recapture those dollars so we can continue to provide the services that we have in the past. And the last thing I'd like to talk about is, well, like we already discussed it, was the public hearing on the JET agreement. And we did receive on the 4th, I believe it is, we had a power outage in the city. And it was a pretty extensive area that had the outage due to a transformer or some switching that took place in Boardman. But at that time, we were completely out of service. We have standby power for this building, standby power for the police department, and neither one kicked on. We've had both investigated, and the standby power at the police department, they can't determine why it failed. It came back on when they did their investigation. We were able to get our guys out here that evening after an extensive period of time and just manually get it working. Not the same with this one. The main board or control for it may have been a result of the outage that shorted it out, and that had to have been replaced. So they are, again, both working, but again, we don't have an answer, which bothers me as to why it didn't work when we really needed it. We test them routinely on a monthly or weekly basis just to exercise it, and everything seems to function. When we needed it, it failed. And it's unacceptable. I did receive correspondence from the city attorney with regard to the same thing, that it really put us in a precarious position because we lost our landlines, we lost our cell phone communication, we lost the 911, and it's unacceptable, I think, to all of us. It's something that we need to address.
Talking with Mr. Hendricks, who I think has the service agreement, was saying something about the louvers in this one-door area or building for cooling was an issue too, as well.
It's not getting enough cool air to keep the thing, but the issue was it wouldn't come on, period. It didn't function. But again, they tested everything, ran a number of tests, and it's working. They can't put their finger on why it didn't perform that evening.
Yeah, he was telling me that too. But I think if we're going to address that, we should address this issue with it overheating.
Well, without a doubt.
Because that's not a
That's all I have this evening. Todd?
Since the 4th of February, we've been out to salt 3 times, and 4 times we have plowed and salted. We've handled 2 burials at the cemetery. When we're not out on snow and ice control, we've been cleaning salt trucks, opening basin inlets, digging out around fire hydrants, and checking sanitary sewers for slow flow. And I'd just like to remind residents, with this extreme cold, water meters and inside water lines need to be in an area that's heated. We've had several incidences lately where people have finished basements and such, and the water lines are behind the finished wall alongside the outside wall, and the meters are freezing and the lines are freezing. If they do freeze and crack the meter, they can be held financially responsible. Also, if they have service lines that run under concrete driveways or uninsulated porches, it's a good idea to leave the cold water trickle a little bit to avoid freezing the line completely off outside. We've had that happen. It hasn't happened yet this year, but last year we had quite a few issues where people had frozen lines under driveways and porches, and there's nothing we can do when that happens. And that's all I have.
Christine?
I've started working on the gap report worksheets. They're provided to Julian and Groove in Columbus. They will actually do the whole report for me. It's due to the state by May 30th. That'll be, hopefully I have all the worksheets to them by the end of March. Next week, the Office of Criminal Justice Services will be performing a compliance audit for both the Residential Neighborhood Patrol Grant and the Active Shooter Grant. That's all I've got.
Chief?
On January 21st, I reported to council that we were in the promotional process for patrol sergeant. The 2 individuals that applied for that process, they submitted a letter of intention. They submitted thorough resumes. They completed 12 essay questions. They took a competitive written examination, and they had an interview with police administration and all current patrol supervisors. And I will say that both individuals impressed me, and I would say you should be proud that they're working with us. I know that I sure am. Both are leaders. Josh Wells was promoted to sergeant on February 16th. He'll do an amazing job for us. He'll continue to lead the department in the direction that we expect it to go in. And the individual that was not promoted, he'll continue to lead the department in the direction that we want it to go in. And, one of the characteristics we look for in anybody that we hire is leadership ability. You don't need to have a title to be a leader. We expect leaders to be walking throughout the building every single day. So I was very happy with the promotional process, and again, I think we promoted an individual that will lead the city in the direction in which it expects to be in. Thank you.
Were you who was in charge of hiring? Was there a group of people? Was there a committee? Or
Yes. Yeah, but ultimately I make the recommendation to the city manager, and he, once we make that determination, we hand the entire background, the entire investigation over to the city manager, and with his final approval, employ the person. So, but yeah, there's a committee, and it's a long process, and it's thorough.
Mark?
Just a couple of things. The purpose of the resolution on the JED tonight is to establish the date of a public hearing. The Ohio Revised Code requires that the JED agreement and its attachments are available for public display for a period of 30 days prior to the public hearing, at which point the city would receive comments and vote on the agreement itself. Patty's well aware of those requirements, and she's good to go with the making those documents available for public inspection, but you do need to set that date sometime 30 days after today. And then I would just like to reiterate what Joe said relative to the 911 system, and I would implore council to take all steps necessary to get that fixed as soon as possible. That's a delicate legal issue for us to have a system that we're aware of, that we are now aware of a problem. We have to take all reasonable steps to fix that problem.
Right.
And the costs, as I understand it, are not that significant to get a fix. So again, I would implore council, and I've provided an opinion letter in that regard.
Do we know what's wrong with it, though?
No.
How do we fix it?
I think you got to investigate it and replace it if you can't figure out what's wrong with it. The exposure is significant.
Understand, Mark. Thank you. Ted?
Yes, the Design Review Historical Preservation Committee approved the demolition of the Arby's at 13 Talisman. They also approved the new Arby's at 13 Talisman. They also approved the demolition of part of a building, the house part at 430 Lisbon Street. The Planning and Zoning, acting as a Board of Appeals, granted adjustment, have more than one main building on a lot, and an 8-foot side yard on the west side at 530 West Main Street. And at the regular meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission changed the meeting in March, from March 12th to March 19th. That's it.
Okay. Under persons desiring additional information from department heads, may I ask you to step forward to the podium, state your name and address clearly for the record, and keep your questions to 3-minute maximum per person and no more than 30 minutes total. The questions must only pertain to each department head's report this evening.
If you're listening, that's what he's saying right now. So if you want to take the podium, state your name and address. If you have questions for anybody relative to that, that's what he was saying.
I didn't hear him say that.
Yep, no. So go ahead if you're ready.
No, I just wanted to know.
Oh, yep.
Okay, number 8, under recognition of persons desiring to speak before council, may I ask that you step forward to the podium, state your name and address clearly for the record, and keep your comments brief. Nancy?
Nancy Brundage, 64 Winona, Canfield, Ohio. I wanted to talk about something nobody wants to hear about, snow. Last Saturday morning, I had a program to give down at the Ford Nature Center in Mill Creek Park. And I went to bed really worried because I was afraid of the condition of the roads. So I got up Saturday morning and heard the snowplow go down our street before I had to leave, and I thought, that's a good sign. So when I left, I got out to 224, just wet, not a sign of snow anywhere. I thought, great, I'm going to make it down there. I got to the Canfield Township line. I couldn't find another road line the whole rest of the way that I went. It was just unbelievable. It didn't look like anything had even been on the roads to try to get anything off. So Todd, congratulations. At least living just as long as we don't have to go out of Canfield, we're fine. And I'm going to try to do that the rest of the winter. The other thing was, I was driving down South Broad this afternoon, a little after 1 o'clock, and there was quite a bit of traffic coming north. And I'm driving along, and all of a sudden, here's two people walking right down the middle of the road heading south. And I had to put on my brakes and stop, and I just had to sit there in the road while the north traffic came by. And I mean, I thought it was a very dangerous situation. And I just checked with Mark, and Ohio Revised Code Canfield Revised Code. Ordinance, okay. 52106 says that people are to keep the sidewalks clear. Well, and it's a misdemeanor?
It's a minor misdemeanor, and they are to keep them clear of, debris, any kind of obstruction, and free and clear of snow and ice. And we've never cited anybody on that, as far as I know.
And right now, you could do the whole city, except my street. I don't have any sidewalks. But, I mean, it is getting very dangerous with people and if this would happen at night, you would probably not even see them. I hope nobody would be out walking. But right down the center of 46, I mean, it was quite scary to come across them just standing there. And I was afraid somebody would come up behind me and, not realize that I was stopped and just sitting there in the middle of the road. So I don't know if there's anything to be done about it at this point, but I know it'd be very difficult for a lot of people to get out there and shovel their sidewalks. Bad enough getting your driveway done. But it can be a safety hazard.
If I can comment on that, one of the problems that we've experienced this year, Nancy, is that storm that we had a week or so ago when we had 3 inches of snow and then it rained on top of it. There's a block of ice sitting underneath that snow in the driveways and the sidewalk, and it's extremely difficult to have that removed.
I know, but it's also very hazardous for people to be walking down the middle of the road as well.
Yeah, actually, it's easier to walk on the snow than it is to walk on that ice.
That's true, too.
That's for what it's
So
worth.
I don't know, I just thought maybe there could be, I just wanted to make a comment on it because it did bother me after I saw it today. Thank you.
If I could reiterate what Nancy said about the roads, to Todd, I'm always driving to the city, from different spots, and it's absolutely amazing to me. It's like our streets are heated when you get here. I'll go through Poland and Boardman or Austintown and get here, and it's absolutely amazing. I have no idea how you and your crew do it, but kudos. It's just amazing.
Thank you. I agree, Mark. Okay, Frank McKeon.
Good evening. I'm Frank McKee. I reside at 220 Glenview. Some of us be here because the Dairy Queen is open. So go and enjoy it and enjoy the nice warm weather. Some time ago I asked Mr. Murillo to give me some information I think would be of general interest to the general citizenry. For example, at the end of 2014, the general fund had $785,000 in it. The water fund had $450,000 in it. And the cemetery trust, there is a cemetery trust that's administered by the city, had about $8,500 in it. And that trust is administered by council and or the finance director. The overtime dollars, total overtime dollars spent in 2014 were some $217,000. That breaks down like $150,000 for the police, $63,000 for public works. And the police were 50% reimbursed from the by grants. So our overtime amounted to something like 2 or 3% of police budget. On public works, we spent about $3,800 last year for summertime help. There are 41 people employed by the city. The admin 11, police 22, and public works 8. Leaf pickup, which we all enjoy. And I'm not advocating stopping it by any means. Was about $62,000, $35,000 of which went to about that cost. And the city does a great job of getting those leaves picked up. We have 22 people full-time in the police department. None were hired in 2014, so apparently we have a good deal of stability, which is a plus. Most of our policemen do have bachelor's degrees, I believe. We have four part-time people who are qualified to be police department, and the police try to keep at least 2 cars running per shift. In 2014, there were 245 traffic stops and 32 citations, and 13% of them were cited. In other words, there was a citation every 1.5 days, and incidents every 1.5 days, and 1 citation every 11.5 days. Interesting stuff. By the way, going back to the financial part that I mentioned here, it would be a plus, I think, for the finance director to give us a picture of how that $9 million is being spent. We have tax money coming in. Can't talk with my hands behind the back. We have income tax monies that are going to hit sometime in April or May. We have funds coming in from real estate taxes. And it'll be interesting to see how that money comes in and when it comes in. There are 8 people in public works. 1 was hired in 2014. In regard to snow plows, which is a hot topic today, 7 plows. We have 8 full-time drivers, of course. And we have 3 trucks that are used in leaf pickup, and it takes about 8 hours to convert one of these back to the snow plows. An interesting thing, water line breaks in 2014. Anybody want to venture a guess how many water line breaks we had? Nobody knows. We had 43 breaks. I was surprised at that. That seems like a high number, and of course they're serviced immediately. But that's just some interesting data that Joe was kind enough to provide. On to one of my favorite topics, these signs in the lobby. These signs in the lobby, we've never had them there until December. In my opinion, they're unnecessary, intimidating. It makes it sound like you're not welcome here, and they're unenforceable. For example, last night we had mayor's court. There were people wandering all over the hallways here. It can't be enforced.
Oh, no, excuse me, that's not accurate. We have bailiffs out there, we have police members here, members of the police force here.
Yeah.
There's business being conducted with the general public in that area.
And
So
there were people going beyond the limits of those signs.
because they have to, and they're authorized to, because we're conducting business in there with those people.
How do you say who's authorized to do it? Anyway, they're unenforceable, in my opinion. And in the end, the bottom line says, police department. Better not go beyond this point. Police department is here. I challenge those people who wrote this sign, person or persons, instead of saying police department, sign your name to it. Okay? And a little verbiage underneath, we fully endorse and support this procedure. Don't leave it up to the police department. Now there's a better way to do this, folks. At great expense. I have a proposal. It says, welcome to Canfield City Hall. Now, stop, do not go beyond this point. You're welcome. We'd like to have you here. Persons wishing to see a city official, sign in with receptionist. Current sign says that. And what we're trying to do is have people stay in the lobby. Please remain in the lobby. And thank you. Instead, police department, you better not go there. And I think that, now, which of these two signs represents how you feel about our citizens? Stop, you better not go beyond this point, or welcome to Canfield City Hall. A stranger walking in would see the existing sign, or say, welcome.
I got to stop you. I got to commend you, because this is the first time that you've had a criticism that you brought a constructive solution. And so, I applaud you. Thank you.
I will try to do better in the future, John, and I appreciate your comments.
Frank, if I might just comment.
Yes.
I like that sign. I would be more than happy to sign it as the mayor of Canfield.
I tell you what, we're going to put it right here.
Well, yeah, bring it over here so we can...
You're going to break it down.
No, I'm not going to break it. I just want to take a picture of it so I got the verbiage right.
Okay. Now, one last thing in conclusion. At the end of the meeting, you have council comments, and which sometimes are positive, sometimes are not so positive. Why is it you won't open that up to the citizenry who are here, and let them say something in a meeting also? Now, let me remind you that there's been a lot of sentiment in the last two elections for the voters wishing to have people be able to express their opinion on issues here in the city. Why not continue that a little further? There's another positive slide. Two in one night, that's a record.
That's why the window is so...
No, I didn't. All right, I wasn't going to say this, but I thought, allow me to continue. One last item. In the 2013 election, there was a charter amendment passed that said that persons could respond to issues in boards and commissions before they took a final vote. Now, if you might recall, there was a lot of opposition to this because there were nasty things that were going to happen. There was going to be blood in the meeting. There's going to be fist fights, and the earth would open up, and we'd all fall in.
That's your word.
Yeah, that might be a slight exaggeration.
It's never blood.
Well,
Johnny.
there were public comments made that there's going to be confusion and issues within the meetings. I went to the Parks and Boards Commission. I went to Design Review and Design Review, all three of those board meetings. I specifically asked, has that charter amendment caused disruption or interfered with the business of these commissions? The answer was no. Now, I invite those persons who oppose these charter amendments on the grounds that there's going to be confusion and issues in the process to step forward and justify why they thought that.
But in our defense, though, how many people are there with open comments at the committee meeting?
I don't one.
None.
One.
Yeah.
One.
I mean, one at
How
most.
about if you had 50, Frank? Then we would have a lot of confusion. That's fine.
But you recall, John, that there's also time limits on these comments.
I know that.
Again, yeah, but some people don't listen to that in 3 minutes, right?
I could think of one. But anyway, I invite you to allow residents to get their 2 cents in at the end of the meetings for comments. And I might add, at times, council has used these comments, to me, that I've been personally attacked a couple of times in comments with no chance for rebuttal. And I don't think that's what council's comments are intended to be. I would like to see them be positive, like our ex-mayor used to do. Thank you for your comments. Thank you.
I would like to make a comment, Frank. I've watched you for a year now.
Be here to say it.
And this evening you are at the top of your game. You actually brought that in. That's a good idea. And if council feels fit to have me sign that as the mayor, I would like to. You're getting better, Frank.
Well, thanks. I would like to see something positive out there and make people feel they're welcome. This is the people's building. And I admit sometimes I maybe go a little further than you'd like to see me go, but I'm working on it. You keep helping me. I'll buy you some coffee someday.
Russ? You know what, I'm done.
You're done?
That's all I
Okay.
needed. Thank you.
No problem.
And the snow, I think the snow is great in Canfield. Let's have her on the streets.
Under old business, there is none. Public comments? There is none. Under new business, item A, as per the provisions of section 4.05 of the Charter of the City of Canfield, I move that council dispense with the requirement of a full reading of the proposed ordinance and authorize it by title only. Do I have a second? Second. Mr. Rogers. Discussion? There being none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Cosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes. Thank you.
And as per the provisions of section 4.05 of the Charter of the City of Canfield, I move that council dispense with the requirement of a full reading of the proposed ordinance and authorized by title only. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Morvay? Discussion? The clerk please call the roll.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Cosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes. Item A. Pardon me. Mr. President, I have an ordinance authorizing a contract modification number 1 for MS Consultants Incorporated for the 2014-15 Basic Engineering Services Agreement. I move for passage of this ordinance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Mayor? Discussion?
Yeah, I know, Joe, you've explained this to us, and I understand that there was additional staff meetings and telephone calls and everything. But I'm like you, I remember being in this meeting with MS Consultants 2 years ago and telling us that they rectified this problem and that we're not going to have this issue anymore. And that's what disturbs me, that it's not the $11,000, but the fact that we weren't supposed to have this situation.
That's where I was at, that we thought we had rectified that, and to wait until pretty much the contract expired to let you know that you're 3 or 4 weeks behind or a month behind.
Right.
Was disturbing to me.
John, I happen to have been in a meeting. Tell you, the city manager made it very, very clear that we will not tolerate this situation. The $11 notification.
Yeah.
To reach it back 3 to 4 months.
But Mayor, that was 2 years ago. We had the same discussion.
This was yesterday.
Yeah.
Trust me, it was made very clear.
Okay. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Public comment?
Oh, sorry. Public comments? The clerk please call the roll.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Cosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
No.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes. And the number is?
2015-2.
Thank you. Okay, under item Item B, as the provisions of Section 4.05 of the Charter of the City of Canfield, I move that council dispense with the requirement of a full reading of the proposed ordinance and authorize it by title only. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Rogers? Discussion? There being none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Cosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
And as per the provision of Section 4.05 of the Charter of the City of Canfield, I move that council dispense with the requirement of a full reading of the proposed ordinance and authorized by title only. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Morvay? And Mr. Morvay?
Yes, Mr. President, I have an ordinance authorizing the city manager to sign a contract for general engineering services with MS Consultants, Inc. for the year 2015 and part of 2016. I move for passage.
I have a second.
Second.
Mayor? Discussion? The clerk please call the roll.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Cosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
And the number is?
2015-3.
Thank you. Item C, as per the provisions of Section 4.05 of the Charter of the City of Canfield, I move that council dispense with the requirement of a full reading of the proposed ordinance and authorize it by title only. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Morvay? Discussion? There being none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Cosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
And as per the provision of Section 4.05 of the Charter of the City of Canfield, I move that council dispense with the requirement of a full reading of the proposed ordinance and authorized by title only. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Rogers. Discussion? The clerk please call the roll.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Cosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. President, I have an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Michael Benza and Associates, Inc. for construction management and resident project inspection services for replacement of approximately 2,600 linear feet of city 24-inch water transmission line. I move for approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Morvay? Discussion?
Joe, is this where we get the 100% of it's paid though, right? I mean, this is a grant or?
It's a loan. It's a 100% loan through OPWC.
Oh, through OPWC.
And a portion of it, we could either, the $47,000 that was granted to us, we can either attach to this or attach to the project.
Got it.
Either way, it'll reduce our loan that we have to repay.
Got it. That's a grant.
Public comments? Yes, Frank?
I am Frank McKee, I reside at 220 Glenview. The cost of these services is $57,000.
That's correct.
Now, this is in addition to the 478, correct?
That's correct.
So the total comes out to be around $540,000 or something like that.
That's correct.
But we're getting $47,930 back from that grant.
So,
And our total loan is approximately $700,000 that we needed to spend that much, which will be well under that amount.
thank you.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Cosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
And the number is?
2015-4.
Thank you. On to item D. As per the provisions of Section 4.05 of the Charter of the City of Canfield, I move that council dispense with the requirement of a full reading of the proposed ordinance and authorize it by title only. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Morvay. Discussion? There being none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Cosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
And as per the provisions of Section 4.05 of the Charter of the City of Canfield, I move that council dispense with the requirement of a full reading of the proposed ordinance and authorize reading by title only. Do I have a second? Second. Mr. Rogers. please call the roll.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Kosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, Mr. President, I have an ordinance authorizing and directing the city manager to enter into a contract for the rehabilitation and replacement of the 24-inch water commission main project and to declare such ordinance an emergency. I move for passage of this ordinance.
Second.
Mr. Morvay, second. Discussion?
Yeah, Joe, I'm sure we have, them with Krilla doing this work, we have some kind of warranty going forward.
Yeah, there's a two-year maintenance bond that's tied to the contract, which is consistent with all of our contracts.
And they've done a lot of this type of
Yeah,
work.
Corell has been in business for quite a number of years, yeah.
Public comments? Frank?
Frank McKee, 220 Glenview. A couple of questions on this project. In that project, is this contractor tearing out the old line and putting a new line, or is this just going to be an additional line?
It's going in the same place the old line, and taking the old one completely out.
The line being taken out. What happens to the old pipe?
It's the property of the contractor.
Oh, okay, because I thought we might get some scrap value out of it. And when this is being done, what provisions are being made to keep the city supplied with water? This is going to take how long to do it?
We're estimating it's going to take about 4 weeks to complete. During that period, we'll open up the old connection to the city along Herbert Road and Shields, and we'll be serving the city from that side. But during peak demand, that would never satisfy us in the summertime. We feel comfortable. We ran some tests that we'll be able to maintain pressure during the winter months.
Okay, and that's the reason you want to get it done during the...
Exactly.
That line, that's a 12-inch line, I believe.
It's a 12-inch.
Our tanks, our supply, we hold about 3 days, 4 days?
No, 1 day.
1 day? So it's got to move.
This time of year, maybe 2.
So it's got to move pretty quick then.
Right.
Okay. Any provision being made to take a section of that old pipe that has corrosion in it, have someone take a look at it, see if they can determine the cause of it?
There's been some discussion of doing so. If we can maybe get OPWC to pay for some of that testing, it might be something we'd want to
It'd
do.
be interesting to find out why it happened. I just, also wondering where I should lay in an extra keg of beer.
Yeah, we've also communicated with the ductile iron folk. They'd like to know themselves what the failure was, so they may even participate in doing that.
Yeah, I don't know whether it was the alloy, whether it was sediment, whether something wrong in the casting was porous. I don't know. Okay, thank you.
Frank, I would point out to you that we have 2 engineers in the city that I think are very talented, and they did look at this pipe. A metallurgist named Frank McKee, along with an industrial engineer named Gordy Kosar. The metallurgist says, I have no idea what caused this, and the industrial engineer made the report to the city manager. We don't know what caused this.
You're not going to find out until you take the section out.
We looked at it in Joe's office.
The pipe he had was not the 24-inch pipe. That was only like a 12-inch.
No, that was from Callahan.
Yeah.
I stand corrected.
Yeah.
How big of a section would you like delivered to your front yard?
Whatever you can pick up and carry. Whatever will make a nice flower pot.
But the characteristics were the same. Well, that Callahan pipe was a 24-inch pipe.
Possibly.
Yeah, that was cast iron pipe. This is ductile iron. It's a different material.
The clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Kosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
And the number is?
2015-5.
Thank you. As per the provisions of Section 4.05 of the Charter of the City of Canfield, I move that council dispense with the requirement of a full reading of the proposed resolution and authorize it by title only. Do I have a second? Second. Mr. Rogers? Discussion? There being none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Kosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
And as per the provisions of Section 4.05 of the Charter of the City of Campbell, I move that council dispense with the requirement of a full reading of the proposed resolution and authorized by title only. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mayor? Discussion? Public comments? The clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Kosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
And the number is?
Take it back.
I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
He's a number anyway.
Mr. President, I have a resolution setting public hearings on the proposed Canfield Community Joint Economic Development District Agreement, and I move for passage.
Do I have a second? Mayor? Discussion?
We need to set a date for that hearing. And that would have to be after the 20...
Today is the 18th, so it would have to be after the 20th, because there's 28 days in February, so anytime after the 20th. And our next council meeting, or the second council meeting in March would be
prior to
the 20th, it'd be the 18th, right?
Yes.
So that would not work. So you could set the public hearing for the next Wednesday on the 25th. You could move the council meeting on the 18th to the 25th and do both.
If you're willing to make that motion.
That's a good idea.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we change the meeting of the second council meeting in March to the 25th.
Yes, the 18th to the 25th.
And on that night also have the meeting relative to this motion. Public hearing, excuse me.
I second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Kosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
You want to set that public hearing for 5 o'clock and start talking at 5:30?
That would probably be perfect, yeah. Let's do that.
That's kind of a time.
As per the provisions of Section 4.05 of the Charter of City of Campbell, I move that council dispense with the requirement of a full reading of the proposed resolution and authorize it by title only. Do I have a second? Second. Mr. Morvay, discussion? There being none-
Hold up a minute. We need a final vote on the JED hearing. I don't think you ever voted on it. We opened it up for discussions, talked about the need for a public hearing, etc. So we need to vote on that.
I thought we had a roll call. No. Sorry. Okay. Back up.
Back up.
Roll call.
Just roll call on that motion.
Okay. Clerk, please have our call, please.
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Kosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Yes, 2015-4.
And could I get a roll call as well on changing the council meeting date?
We did that.
We did that? Okay.
We did that. We didn't do it with the JED, sorry.
Got it.
That's right.
Okay, thank you. As per the provisions of Section 4.05 of the Charter of the City of Campbell, I move that council dispense with the requirement of a full reading of the proposed resolution and authorize it by title only. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Morvay. Discussion? There being none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Kosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. President, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to submit an application for funding for the Safe Routes to School program. I move for approval.
Second, Mr. Rogers. Discussion? Public comment? There being none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Dragish?
Yes.
Mr. Kosar?
Yes.
Mr. Morvay?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
And the number is?
2015-5.
Thank you. Okay, we're end with Councilman's comments. Mr. Rogers?
I have to echo what people said tonight about the roads. Todd, you're doing a great job. I can't say enough about how these roads and sidewalks look and run. You're doing a good job. I appreciate it very much. And of course, not just you, but all the city workers here do a great job. I'm proud to be working with you. Thank you again.
I'd just like to wish everyone a very pleasant Easter.
Easter
season. Well, Easter season.
Okay.
Today started Lent.
That's great.
And so I just wanted to convey that. And along with that, St. Michael's has fish fries on Friday night. If you've not attended a fish fry at St. Michael's, you should, because they're delicious.
We are good.
And, Nancy, you were talking about the laws, and I just happened to stumble on this, I don't even know why I have it, but Ohio crazy laws. Did you know that in Ohio, it was illegal to mistreat anything of great importance? It is illegal to fish for whales on Sunday. These are Ohio laws. Well, I don't know.
That's true too.
No one may be arrested on Sunday for the 4th of July. I don't know if Chief knows that or not. And then there was one specific to Youngstown. And Youngstown, riding on the roof of a taxi cab is not allowed. You may not run out of gas. And that concludes my comments.
Okay.
This agreement, this JET agreement that has finally come into being, there's been extensive work done by the city manager and by Mark Fortunato. Can't even begin to imagine the complexity of this. This is going to be the first one in Collin County. And why it took so long, I'm not real sure, but I'll tell you what, these two guys have done a tremendous amount of work coordinating with the township trustees. Members of council have individually inputted their thoughts into this thing. This is a very, very well thought out document, and thank you, Mark. Thank you, Joe.
Our pleasure. My pleasure.
That it's adjourned. Good.